Hello, and welcome to this session of Skill Up. Today, we are going to be talking about time management. So when you think about time management, I'm sure most of us just hate the thought of that because it feels like it's something we can't control. And sometimes you're right, we can't control it, but there are some things we can do to be better at it. So the first thing I want you to start doing is just start by thinking about the top things that you spend your time on every day. And if you want to pause this video and make that list, go right ahead. But think about, where does your time go? And be real, be honest. Nobody's going to see this but you. But what is it that takes your time? And I made a list of things here that may apply to you and maybe not. But don't forget about those things at the bottom, those social peer interactions, the personal, checking social media, going to get coffee, all of those things. And I'm not saying that sometimes we don't need a break and we don't need to do that, but we do need to allow for that time when we're thinking about it. So once you have your list, that will help you start prioritizing exactly where you're at. You've probably heard about the 80-20 rule, and I think it's really true in time management. So 80% of your effort is going to give you 20% of your effort is going to give you 80% of your results. And you probably spend 80% of your time that's only giving you 20% of your results. So the idea is, well, we can never make this perfect. It's something we want to be aware of. Number one, what is that 20% of our effort? And when are we at our best effort? So if you think about your job and those things you made on that list, go through and circle those things. Are what are the most important that gives you 80% of your results? And that'll give you an idea of where you want to start prioritizing. I want to tell you a little story about an axe. So once upon a time, there was a very strong woodcutter, and he asked for a job at a timber merchant, and he got it. The pay was really good, and so was the work condition. And for those reasons, the woodcutter was determined to do his very best. His boss gave him an axe and showed him the area where he was supposed to work. The first day, the woodcutter cut down 18 trees. "Congratulations," the boss said. "Keep going." So very motivated by the boss's words, the woodcutter went out and tried harder the next day, but he could only cut down 15 trees. The third day, he tried even harder, but he could only get 10 trees cut down. Day after day, he kept cutting less and less trees. He said, "I must be losing my strength," the woodcutter thought, and he went to his boss and he apologized, saying he couldn't understand what's going on. And the boss asked, "When was the last time you sharpened your axe?" "Sharpen? I have no time to sharpen my axe. I've been very busy trying to cut trees." I love this story because I think it talks a lot about how we do our jobs and how we plan our days. Sometimes we don't take time to improve ourselves or to think about how can we gain some efficiencies? How can we get better? And that's what I want you to try to do today. So if you look at this next slide, there's a lot of examples of things that actually waste our time. So it could be waiting for inspiration. We just don't feel it yet. We could be trying to do everything all by ourselves. We could be worrying about what other people will think or say. We're not living our life. We're living the life somebody else wants us to. We may have fear, maybe fear of failure that would hold us back. Maybe we spend time complaining, or we leave a lot of tasks unfinished. We're trying to please everybody else, and so we keep doing things different ways. Maybe we're stuck in that comparison game where we're comparing ourselves to others. We keep repeating the same mistakes because we don't take time to sharpen our axe. We don't take time to find an efficiency. Or maybe we're perfectionists and we have to make sure it's perfect. And so we spend a lot of time reworking and doing when maybe it would have been okay on the second version. Sometimes it's a lack of priorities. We're not sure where we should be. These things can all waste our time. We're spinning our wheels and we're not accomplishing things. So it's important that we're able to identify when those things are taking our time and when we need to move on. I love this matrix from Stephen Covey, and he breaks down all of the things that we do in time management into 4 categories. So we're going to start in the lower right-hand corner, time wasting. So this is category number 4. The busy, trivial work, some of our mail, some phone calls, some time wasters, some pleasant activities that we enjoy but are really time wasting. If you look at the matrix here, you're going to see that those are not urgent and not important tasks. If you go over to number 3 on the bottom, you see that some things are more of a distraction. They're interruptions. We're in the mode, we're working, but then we have a distraction, whether it's an email pop-up, a spark pop-up, a phone call. Some mail, some reports are more distracting. Some meetings, honestly, it's like, why am I as part of this meeting? Is there value I'm adding, or am I getting value out of it? Sometimes it's those pressing matters that seem to take our time right away because it's pressing and somebody thinks it's important, whether it is to us or not. Popular activities, all of those seem urgent to us, but they're really not important. When you get up to the box number two, that's where our quality time is. So these are things that are not urgent, but they're very important. So it's preventing things from happening. It's understanding improvement and improving our capabilities, relationship building, recognizing new opportunities, much more strategic planning and recreation. In box number one, those are urgent things that are important. That's where all your crises fall, pressing problems, deadlines, things that have to be done. And you have those days at the end of the day, you felt like all I did today was put out fires because they were important things and they were crises and we had to do them, and they took away from the other things we need to do. Well, according to Stephen Covey, some things that we need to think about is we need to try to get rid of things that are in box number three. That's why the red circle is going to come up here. And box number four, we want to avoid spending time on those things because they're really not important. We really want to get up to spending most of our time in box number 1 and 2. Ideally, we don't want to be in box number 1, but the reality is we're always going to have a box number 1. We really want to focus our time and our schedules on those things that fall in box number 2. So when you're doing your schedule, when you're planning your day, those are the things you want to plan for. All of those other things will fit around it, but we really want to make sure that we're planning for what's in that important and not urgent. That quality time is where we want to focus our calendar on. Another thing to think about is a lot of us have a problem with procrastination. We don't want to do it. We don't like doing it. Maybe we hate doing it. Maybe I don't do it. Whatever it is, we procrastinate and we put things off. And unfortunately, that just adds to our stress and our tension. And that's not good for us either. So I like this next quote from Mark Twain. And it says, if it's your job to eat a frog, the best thing to do is in the morning is to eat the frog. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So I learned this lesson a long time ago, and somebody I worked with gave me my own little frog. And this is a cute little stuffed frog that for over 10, 15 years has sat on my desk. And it's a reminder to me because I tend to do procrastination. I don't like the things that are tough conversations maybe as much. I know we have to do them, but honestly, who likes doing them? So having this frog on my desk was always a reminder to me to do the worst thing I was going to have to do that morning. And if it was eating a frog, I needed to do it because the rest of my day would be so much easier. If I waited, I'm procrastinating, eating the frog, and I'm thinking about it all day long, and I still have to eat the frog, and I've lost the whole day's productivity. So it's always a good idea to eat the frog first. So here's some tips for you to manage your energy. So the first thing I would suggest is to create a time audit. And you can Google this. There's lots of Excel spreadsheets, or you can use paper and pencil. It doesn't matter. There's probably apps for it. But to really audit your time, where is my time going? Because we also have those days you get to the end of the day and say, I didn't accomplish anything. I don't even know what I did, but I felt really busy. So what's taking your time? Another tip would be to set a time limit for each task. So when you put something on your schedule, block out the amount of time you expect it to take and set a time limit. And if it's taken longer, then maybe you need to stop and schedule more time for that task. But instead of letting everything else in your day fall apart, depending on what it is and what the priority is, sometimes it's better just to stop and schedule more time for that task. Another tip would be to use a to-do list. I love to-do lists. I like doing them at the end of the day. I like taking that last 15 or 20 minutes, looking at my schedule, knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. Do I have everything I need prepared for any meetings? I really want to be prepared to do that. And what are the things I need to accomplish in the morning? And then in the morning, spend your mornings on your most important tasks, your MITs. So what are those important things to get done? For me, I am a morning person, so I want to focus all of my energy on those things that are really important first thing in the morning and get them done and cross them off my list. Another tip would be leave buffer time between tasks and meetings. So you don't want to be working on something, still thinking about that, running into a meeting, and you're not in the right mindset for the meeting, which will make for an unproductive meeting. So make sure you leave 10 or 15 minutes in between things so that you can get whatever you need and you can be prepared for that meeting. It's also a good tip to get organized, and that's going to mean different things for each of us. And in our next session next month, we're going to talk about getting organized with Outlook. But getting organized can mean lots of different things. But what is it that helps you stay on task and get things done? And I also mentioned single task. We often hear the phrase multitask. It's an illusion. It is not good. It does not help us. We stop and start. Our brain can technically only focus on one thing at a time. We're not really juggling 5 balls. We're not seeing all 5 balls at the same time. We are seeing one. And then we have to stop and see another one. And multitasking is very overrated. Now, being multi-aware, you need to know what's going on around you, and you need to be able to keep your awareness up, but that doesn't really mean that you're working on things simultaneously. And again, follow that 80-20 rule that we talked about before. Where are you going to get the most of your results? That 80% of your results, your 20% of your effort, where is that at, and are you using your best time? Some other tips would be use an online calendar, whether you use Outlook here at work, but even for your home life, it's great to have an online calendar so everybody knows what's going on and you can stay organized. Stop being perfect. We talked about being a perfectionist. I had somebody that told me one time, my boss, and he said 95% of the time you know what you're doing, you've got it done right, go with that. The other 5% we'll worry about when it happens, but you're wasting much more than 5% time trying to be perfect. So stop trying to be perfect. Another thing we need to learn is just say no. And obviously we need to be respectful when we say no, but we need to understand our priorities. And if it's your manager or you're saying, here's a project for you, it's very easy to say, that's great, I would love to help out. Let me tell you what else I have going on. Where does this fall in the line of priorities here? Because maybe they have forgotten other things you're working on. And sometimes we just need to know, where does this fall? So it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, where do I juggle this? But make sure you're communicating. Find inspiration. And what does that look like? Could be different to everybody. Maybe it's just walking outside and walking around the parking lot. Maybe it's listening to a song. You know, you got a 4-minute song you're going to listen to that's going to pump you up. But what is that for you? Find out what that inspiration is. Another thing that helps is batching similar tasks together. So if you have 2 or 3 things that are very similar, takes the same resources, it's a good idea to work on those together. That will save you time. And then remember the story about the woodcutter. Look for efficiencies. What do you need to do to make it better for you so that you can be more productive? You want to work less, but you want to work smarter, and your outcome will still be the same. So make sure you look for those ideas there. So what's our next steps for this session? So first of all, I want you to figure out how are you going to analyze your time for the next week. Take time to really understand, where is my time going? And then use that action sheet to create some action items that you can do personally to improve your time management. Make sure you share them with somebody who can help keep you accountable, and remember to eat the frog. And there's also another handout with some other tips that have also been posted on the internet that may provide you some help too. So I hope you enjoyed the session of Skill Up, and I look forward to talking to you next month.